Hello everyone. Thank you for connecting. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for attending this webinar. I am Arnold. I'm the marketing manager and the business development manager for IMAS, and I'm really very happy to present you R22, the new solution from IMAS, along with Denis. Denis is our lead developer, and he's been developing R22 in the last year. And we will present that for you today. The session is going to, the presentation is going to last 40-45 minutes. If you already have a question, if you have to leave prior to that, we are currently recording this webinar. So if you, we will send the replay to you. Also, we have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation. You may send to me directly the questions. You have to select aircraft maintenance systems in the chat box in your Zoom window, and you can send me directly the questions, and I will be happy to repeat them and obviously to answer them. Before we step into R22, I'm going to introduce aircraft maintenance systems for those who do not know us. Aircraft maintenance systems, I guess our names says a little bit about what we are doing. We are in a software company in the ecosystem of aircraft maintenance. We are part of a larger group which is called the Reactis Group. It's a French IT services company. It's based in Aix-en-Provence, in south of France, and the Reactis Group is working for 1/3 of its activity in the aerospace and defense field. We have prestigious clients such as Airbus, Dassault, Thales, or DGA, which is the French Army. The group is a reach of 300 engineers with more than 30 million annual revenue, 30 million euros annual revenue. And this size helps us to invest a lot in our softwares, in our innovation. And in the last years, it's more than 5 million euros that were invested in the software division. IMAS is not a new company. It was created some 20 years ago now in Quebec, in Canada, and still headquarters in Montreal, in Canada. And it was created by a director of maintenance at the head of many. He was managing many aircrafts for his own needs, and he was looking for a solution. And we are in the early 2000s, and he could not find any solution that would be a perfect fit for his needs. So he decided to create his own solution. And after a few years, it became quite a success, and we had IMS was reach of some few hundred, 100 clients. And it's at this stage that he decided to sell the company, and this is where the Reactis groups come into play. And the acquisition of IMS in 2011. And from there, Reactis Group will develop the solution into a very global player, an international company. We are currently serving more than 300 clients worldwide. We operate in 40 countries. We have hundreds of different types of aircraft in our systems, in our database, 3,000 daily users, and we operate for those 40 countries out of 3 main locations. Obviously, the headquarters in Montreal, Canada, where we have the support team, some of the sales team. We also have a lot of people in Reactis in Aix-en-Provence, especially where Denis is and his team are currently developing the solution. And we also have operations in Asia, in Singapore, to serve and support our customers in Australia or New Zealand. So 20 years of expertise, really designed at the very core of the solution, designed to be a solution made by experts for daily operations. Okay, so this is really what our clients are telling us, is that we do have a very good functional coverage. Our features are really good, and we have different kind of clients of every size, being rotary wings or fixed wings, being CAMO only, or operators, or MRO organizations. We also work for airlines and charters. We also have a specialty in assisting schools and academies in the system. So we do have a pretty good feedback on the market of where we are and where we stand. And really the solution is highly appreciated for its functional coverage and its features. Okay, but at the end of the day, what our clients were saying is that the solution is not as user-friendly as it would be expected in those times. Obviously, the software, even if it had many evolutions, was designed in the early 2000s. It's 20 years now, and the evolutions were getting complicated. The connections with the other systems were getting complicated. And this is where Reactis Group invested a lot of money, and we decided to renew up completely and start really from a white page the solution. Okay, and this is where the project R22 comes into play, and Denis and his team have been working in the last 2 years to develop the solution that we are going to present today. Okay, what is behind R22? Obviously, our 20 years of experience, the feedback of our 300 clients. We believe the solution does the job. It does the job really good. But what's on top of that is we have added, obviously, the features that of the modern systems, of the modern technologies. Okay, mobility, for example, you can access the solution from anywhere, any device, any operating system. You can work remotely. You do not need to be at the office or in the hangar to connect to the solution. You have multi-users access, and everybody has his own access, so you can monitor what is happening and so on. So mobility, obviously, in today's world, is absolutely mandatory. Okay, very strong statement. The simplicity. We were really committed to bring some simplicity to the system. Obviously, we know that a maintenance information system can get very complex. It is a complex business with a lot of different tasks, a lot of different operations, and we wanted to bring as much simplicity as possible. And the simplicity comes from the user interface. Obviously, you will see the screens we've been working on do have some quick links. You have a very good capability to personalize, to customize the solution. Okay, and the simplicity also comes from the fact that it's a web-based solution. So you can connect from your own browser. You can open as many windows as you want. You do not need to take care of the software itself. Okay, the day when you connect on a daily basis, you always have the best solution, the latest version of the solution that is available. You do not need to worry about your data. We are compliant with the strongest regulations and backups when it comes to data privacy, data security. Okay, we have different clouds at different parts of the world, and we're able to adapt to every specific needs and every specific situation. So simplicity is really at the core of our thinking. And there is a very good example that the training, okay, that we do offer for the old solution, okay, which is called the V21, for the same level of knowing how to work with the solution. With V21, we offer a 5 days training. And with R22, for the same level of knowledge, we offer a 2 days training. So this is really, when it comes to resources management and simplicity, okay, this is really obvious. Last element before I leave the floor to Denis is the connectivity. Obviously, being a web-based solution with new technologies, database, very powerful database technology behind, we are able to build some connectors, some interactions, okay, with other systems. Those other systems can be your internal systems, being your ERP, accounting system, HR system, whatever. It can also be connecting to the flight, to the different tech logs, the flight logs, the pilots' tablets, and so on. And it also can be connectivity with your suppliers, with your clients when it comes to having the latest state of an inventory, for example. So we are slowly but surely developing libraries of APIs, of connectors, and we'll offer them to our clients. I will now leave the floor to Denis. He is going to present you the 3 main modules of R22. Obviously, it does the job. Okay, so it does the job for every stakeholder in the maintenance, aircraft maintenance industry, being an airworthiness manager or a director of maintenance or anybody in charge of the supply chains and inventories. Okay, so. Thank you for this, for your attention for this introduction. And Denis, it's to you.
Okay, so as Arnold said earlier, R22 is a web-based application. So once you have your account created, you will be provided a URL that you can use in any web browser from any device. Would it be a PC, a tablet, a smartphone, whatever. So for the sake of this demo, I'm using my own PC and everything is running locally, but otherwise it's something on the cloud. So afterwards, it's straightforward, just a login password as usual for this kind of product. Okay. The first thing you'd like to see with this kind of application is basic kind of interface. So let's have a quick view of how you could create an aircraft into the system. You have a dedicated page with a form and some meaningful fields everywhere. So here, my purpose here is not to show into details how to create an aircraft, just to show you basically the kind of interface you will have a bit everywhere in the application. So basically some forms like this, multiple fields, normally quite meaningful, like for an aircraft, we request the registration, the serial number, manufacturing date, the maintenance program associated to this aircraft, etc., etc. And afterwards, it will allow you to create an aircraft if I go up to the end of the flow. Another way to create data, to add data into the system is through the import functionality that you can find here. We have multiple interfaces through Excel files to import more or less every kind of data that you might want to handle, like an aircraft, some documents, flight logs, the maintenance programs, and other stuff if needed. So for instance, if I wanted to create an aircraft through an Excel file, I could just fill an Excel file with this kind of columns and description. Here you can always download an example from the software. You fill it, and once you have your Excel file, you just upload it here. You select it from your computer, upload, and everything will be created. Once the data is into the system, once you created your aircraft, at some point, you will see your full fleet composed of one or multiple aircrafts. You may have as many aircraft as you want. And I just made sure that we have the 3 main status possible for an aircraft, just for the sake of this demo. Most of the aircraft should be either airworthy, meaning there's nothing special to do urgently. To maintain in yellow, meaning that we do have some maintenance tasks to perform quickly. The aircraft may still fly, but if we don't do anything at some point, it will become non-airworthy. And here I have 3 aircraft that are red, meaning there is something to do on those aircraft before they can fly again. So for today, I will mainly have a look at this aircraft in yellow because that's the most common state that you should face in real life. For today's demo, my purpose is not to go into all the functionalities one by one, but more to show you what are the key functionalities that will make you save time and money, what makes us different from the previous version we have and from our competitors. The first key functionality that we do have is what we call the graph navigation. In the database, in the system, we have different kinds of information available, like the list of all our aircraft. Each aircraft individually, we have the parts, we have the people, we have the maintenance program, we have the task, we have plenty of stuff. And all these data are correlated, are linked together. And we do propose a way to browse through all those kind of data. So let's see what it could help you to do. If I zoom on one specific aircraft, the aircraft I selected, I will come back to this screen later on. I can see that around my aircraft, I have an owner, I have some parts, I have some counters, some base, some whatever. And this graph allows me to answer quickly some questions I might have without having a lot of knowledge of the application. So for sure, there are some links to go from a page to another one, and through time, you will know exactly how to navigate through the application. But let's say you are a newcomer, a new user on this platform, and you want, for instance, just to have an idea of what's the model of my aircraft. So in the middle, you have your aircraft. And if you click on the model, you will see quickly in few clicks that you are on this kind of aircraft. And if you click on it, you are redirected automatically to the page associated to this kind of data. So this kind of navigation will help you, especially at the beginning, to save some time to learn how to use the tool. And this kind of functionality will allow you to be operational on the system in something like half a day or just 1 day, compared to the 3 to 5 days with similar applications. So for instance, I could find also my maintenance program over there, and I will zoom and open some information about it. So yeah, it was a document, it was not a maintenance program. I misclicked, but whatever. Okay, this graph navigation allows you also to find some answers by looking at your data a different way. For instance, let's take a scenario. Something was done on your aircraft. You opened, for instance, a work order. You did some tasks, and something went wrong on those tasks. So you'd like to find more information about who did it, which tool was used, the serial numbers, whatever. So this is something you could do just by clicking here in the middle. I have my work order. Over there, I have all my tasks. I could select one of them and find some information associated to it. A possibility would be to find, for instance, I don't know, the other aircraft on which I've performed the same kind of action. So I could click there and I will find the scheduled tasks. So the other overall that were performed. So let's say that's a task that was not properly done on this aircraft. We may assume that potentially it was done badly also on other aircraft. And by clicking multiple times on each of those tasks, I will be able to go back up to the aircraft that would contain this task. So for instance, I started from this aircraft, CFAM-SPR, and I can see in few clicks that a similar task was performed on this aircraft. And potentially, if I have a problem on my current aircraft, I could have the same problem over there. Some similar scenarios that you could do also is to detect, I don't know, that some person did a task, but without the right qualification. Through the same kind of sequence of click, you could find the aircraft on which he operated something. Similar for badly calibrated tools, whatever. Okay, so you start from an aircraft, you find a task, you find something wrong, and then you look for consequences. The key point here is that I was able to find some information without a dedicated search page that was designed for my specific search. Meaning, basically, I can search anything inside my data without having to ask IMAS team to develop something, without having to ask IMAS team for some support. So for sure, it's a saving of time and money, because if a development was to be done, there would be discussions, delay, potentially some money, etc., etc. Here, you can do the search on your own without asking everything. It's completely embedded into the system. So that's the first key functionality that will make you save money, this graph navigation. Another very interesting functionality that we do propose is the timeline. So here I have my aircraft. My aircraft is composed of multiple components that are embedded one into the other, up to some parts. I have my part tree, my component tree over there, that is likely to change through time, because we will unmount some parts, replace them by something else, etc., etc. What is usually complex during an audit is to understand the exact configuration of an aircraft 6 months in the past, or even 1 year, or even further than that. With our application, it's straightforward. We have this timeline over there, and you have the ability to select a date, whatever date. And if you select a given date, so for instance, a few days in the past, in my case, but it could be months, years, no matter what. You select a date and you have the exact configuration of your aircraft at this specific date. And here, in my example, we could see that the serial number for my parts are different than the current configuration. And we could even see here that we have at least one red task, so something that is overdue, which was not the case when I was at the current time, where everything is just either green or yellow. So using this slide bar or using this calendar, you choose a date and you can really see your data at a given time in the past. So it will be easier to answer a question to an auditor. And for sure, it will reduce a lot your stress, make sure that your answers are trustworthy, are good, and your relationship with your auditor will be better. And overall, it will make you save time and money in terms of audit. Another key functionality is what I described here, the part tree. So the way you can define your aircraft. There's no main constraint in the system. You can define whatever you want, all the components you want, and you can nest them together the way you want. Overall, it's a tree, and there's no limit at all in the number of components you may have in one aircraft, and there's no limit at all in the number of levels, the depths of the tree. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, but I could have more, which is especially useful for helicopters. Another functionality that we do, or at least the functionalities is of course available in all products, but the mount and the way we mount and unmount some parts in the system, some components in the system. So the standard way to do it, if I want, for instance, to change my my engine, would be to create a work order. So let's say I create one. I will add into this work order some task that normally comes from my maintenance program, some defects, some repairs, some whatever. So that's the normal flow. You do not replace a part just for fun. There is a reason. But for the sake of my demo, I have no specific maintenance task that requires to replace my engine. So I will just create a free text request to replace engine. And once I've done that, I will just save my work order. I will generate through the application a document with a quote, then potentially a work order that I will push to my part 145 or my MRO. It will do the job. And at some point, I will get back my aircraft with my engine being replaced. So once I receive my aircraft, I will just say that the task was performed at some point in time, so no matter what. Okay, and in just one click, basically, I will be able to describe that my engine is replaced by another one. So I can either create a brand new engine with all the needed information, and there's a dedicated flow for that, or maybe there was one engine available in my store that I can directly use and put inside my aircraft. So here I just say that I'm replacing my engine by another one in just one click. And after that, once this is done, I will see in my part 3. Okay, so I took an engine that was to be repaired. So obviously there are plenty of bad stuff, but at least we can see that in one click, I declared the replacement of my engine by another one. And doing that, as you can see here, my engine, the components that I removed came along with all its data and all its history, and was replaced by another part that comes also with its complete history, its complete associated data. So we have full trackability, and the operation is quite easy and is performed in, let's say, a few minutes. In few minutes, I changed the engine on my specific aircraft with all the data associated to it. So here we can see a clear gain of time compared to other products, where it usually takes up to half a day to get something similar, depending on the complexity. So few minutes compared to half a day. So the gain is, I guess, obvious. Another functionality, so I already presented the import functionality, where you do have a list of Excel files that you may download or upload into the system to feed the system with some data. You also have the ability to export information from the software to Excel. So we do have this global consultation section where basically you will get all your information aggregated for your complete fleet and grouped by sections like flight logs, work orders, maintenance program tasks, documents, whatever. And in the future, there will be even more. Here you have basically a big table with a lot of columns that you can directly from the application filter. You can put some filters, you can sort, you can change stuff, etc. But if you want to go even further than what we do propose, you may export in one click your data from the system into an Excel file that I can download and afterwards open in Excel. So at any time, you have access to all your data and you can do whatever you want with it. So here it is, just to show you, okay, we have the table, the big table that was behind. Okay, that's for all the functionalities that are common between CAMO and MRO. Then if I zoom a bit more on the part 145 activity, I can go into the workshop page. The workshop page will be, I would say, the main page for the director of maintenance, where he will see all the open work orders and tasks in it, represented as tickets like this. So here a line is basically a work order. There could be one or multiple tickets in it, and each ticket is a task. One of the main actions that the director of maintenance will have to do is basically to dispatch those jobs, those tasks, over the engineers. To do that, it's as simple as a drag and drop. So I take my task and I just put it from not planned up to planned. And the system will ask me few informations like when I want the task to be scheduled, who is assigned this task to. So there could be one engineer to do the job for sure, maybe multiple engineers, one inspector, maybe multiple inspectors, depending on the task. So for the sake of this demo, I will assign those to myself to show you afterwards how it behaves from an engineer perspective. So if I do that, now the task is assigned to me. But I could go further as director of maintenance. The job is being done. Then I could continue and move the ticket to ongoing to say it started, potentially to on hold if there's an issue and the action is to be stopped. And at some point, the task could be completely performed. Each time, the system will ask me some information. So the development is still in progress for this part. But here you get the concept that it's as simple as a drag and drop. And I can each time provide the needed information. And at some point, when everything is done, I will be able, as a director of maintenance, to generate the work report, the CRS, sign everything that needs to be signed, etc. If I just go back to the plan state, if I'm doing a paperless flow, I could ask my engineers to connect to the application. They will have a login password like I did, and they will be directly logged on this page, the My Activities page. My Activities is basically the list of all the tasks that are assigned to this guy. So in this case, it's myself, and I assign just one task to me. And I can see the task. I can see some information about it, like the parts that I need to touch, to change, to do something on. Potentially an aircraft. So here there's no, all the information is not filled, but whatever. And I have a button to perform some actions. The first kind of action I can do is to retrieve all the documents associated to this task to help me in my job, knowing exactly how to do what is requested. Another action would be close to the documents here to retrieve the task card associated to this task and be able to print it if it's needed, because sometimes you might want a paper flow. Why not? So we'll also provide that, the ability to print the task card, and you do the job manually and you sign directly on the task card. If I want to go into a paperless flow, I can directly say into the system that I start my activity now. So let's say maybe a bit earlier. And the system will record that I started the task at a given time. Then I do the job, I come back and I say, it's over, it's done, fine. Same thing for the inspector. He will start his job and stop his job. During the inspection, potentially we may discover some issues, so some defects. So there's a way to record some defect. A task could be put on hold if there's a major problem, whatever. Or normal scenario would be now that we declare that it's over. The task disappears from the task to be done by the engineer. In the near future, there will also be an history of all the tasks that were done recently, so that in case we forgot something, we can change it anyway. From the director of maintenance perspective, the ticket was automatically, if you remember, I put it back to planner. The ticket was automatically pushed up to done, and the director of maintenance may track what is being done or not in the workshop. So here we have something quite simple, drag and drop for the director of maintenance, some buttons and small forms for the engineers. And through this flow, we also track all the timing, the time that was spent on the task, which will allow us later on to perform some statistics about how much time is needed for a given task compared to what is expected, for instance. And this kind of information could also be pushed to an ERP. What else? Another interesting functionality is the forecast one. If I go back to my aircraft, so there are some tasks planned through the maintenance program, and there's a tab over there which is called forecast. It's possible to define in the system the average usage we have of a given aircraft. So we could say, for instance, that this aircraft is expected to perform, I don't know, 4 landing a day and potentially, I don't know, 20 hours a day. It would be a lot, I don't know, 40 hours per month, whatever. So you can say to the system how much you expect to use the aircraft. And this is a very interesting information because it will allow the system to convert the limits associated to a task that are usually expressed as cycles or flight hours to convert them into a date. Because if we know that we perform 40 hours per month and we have something to be performed in 100 hours, it means it will be done in 2 months and a half. Basically, that's the kind of computation that the system can do for you. That's something you will see in the maintenance tab over there, where you can see all your tasks. And there is a dedicated column called forecast date that is filled with the expected date for a given task. If we go a bit further, we know now that a task is due by a given time. If we have a look at our maintenance program, we could also see that in the maintenance program, we will define a lot of information, of course, but we will define what is called the accomplishment needs. So here, this task, it's not filled, but whatever. For a given task, we could say that a task will need a given number of parts with some part numbers, for instance, some tools, calibrated tools, some items like, I don't know, some paint, oils, whatever, some qualifications. And what would be really interesting here is that knowing that we need some parts for a given task and that we know that this task is due for a given time, a given day, this information will become visible up to the store. So I didn't talk about the store so far, but basically a store will be a location where you can define as many references as you want for of parts. I don't know what I could put. Okay, whatever. And here you will see in your store that you have a given reference. You have a given quantity, so 0 in my case because I just added this reference to my store. There would be a link with any purchase order, with any requisition lists, because when you want to do some tasks, you may reserve some parts in advance. Plus, in the future, in the near future, there will be a forecast column over there where you will see when this task will be needed and how many we will need in the coming days, weeks, months, even years, so that you can plan in advance all the purchases you need for your store. It would also allow you to avoid to buy useless parts, so it will save you some money, and it will allow you also to buy the parts when they are available, so that you are not in emergency and you do not immobilize your aircraft because you missed something. Plus, you will be able to buy the parts at the best price when they are cheap, not when they are very expensive, thanks to this forecast part. So definitely a save of time and money, especially money in this case. What else? What did I miss? Oh, yes, I forgot to say something about the workshop over there. By using this paperless flow with tickets and the fact that the director of maintenance can do some drag and drop, but especially that the fact that the engineers will fill the system with the most important information when it's done, if it's done, the parts that were retrieved from the store, etc., etc. It will save a lot of time to the director of maintenance, and we consider that it will save up to 1 day per week of effort to the director of maintenance to fill this data into the system. So 1 day per week, it's a huge gain for sure. Another big gain will be a similar one will be for the CAMO, because in case you are both CAMO and MRO or part 145, all this information that is collected by the engineer will be pushed back to the CAMO directly into the work order. So this page, I'm just trying to zoom a bit, the one I showed earlier to replace a part. Here, normally you have to fill a lot of information about which part was changed, when, etc., etc. And basically, all this information was already filled into the system directly by the engineer. So it's no need for the CAMO to fill it again. And it means also a saving of around 1 day of work per week for the CAMO. So again, a big gain. I guess I covered at least the main key functionalities I wanted to show you today. So now it's up to Arnold. I don't know if there are any questions.
Yes, thank you, Denis, for this presentation, and I hope that you all enjoyed R22 and its very innovative features that we've been putting a lot of energy and money as well in there, so that you can save time and money. I'll just share my screen again for a couple of minutes before we step into the questions. We do have some questions. First, let me share my screen again, and I will just finish the presentation with sharing you a couple of informations here. Okay. Yes. So as you could see, on the different features that we offer are really efficient. The capability we provide for you to customize and use those global consultation, the graphical navigation, or the timeline are really some huge innovations. And at the end of the day, we wanted to keep this expertise. So we believe that we offer with R22 a real plug and play expertise. Okay, Denis has been proving some metrics of during the presentation, and some of them are really significant. You can save up to 1 day per week in the CAMO MRO interactions with no repetitive tasks that are complementary to each other. Also, the audit and the timeline features help you to save. One of our clients said it saves him more than 50% of his time during the audit, and it brings a lot of confidence to the auditor, which is a very important key, obviously. And you also could enjoy the capability with a simple click to have an engine or whatever component parts in a simple click. And at the end of the day, all this we've measured regarding competition, regarding our old systems and so on, that the cost of the solution, okay, for your operations to run your daily operation is roughly 30% less than a classical on-premise solution, okay, with the upfront cost to buy a license and a support plan attached to it. So 30% less on an average total cost of ownership. How can we reach those 30%? It's very simple. We are a web-based solution. It's a subscription-based model, okay? So we made it also very simple. And we made it also very open, okay? Open in the sense of you have the same level of capabilities, the same level of features, the same level of support, no matter your size, okay? If you are a small CAMO in Europe with running 2 aircrafts, you will be using, under our model of 1 aircraft or 1 user, is 1 unit, okay? So I am a CAMO and I have 2 aircraft, I will be using 3 units, okay? And to access all the CAMO features of the CAMO module, okay, I will pay €3 or 15 Canadian dollars or 13 US dollar for having full access to this. So I will pay €30 per month to run my operations as a CAMO using the CAMO module, okay? Before I leave the floor to the first questions, just one last information. Obviously, Denis has been presenting the high-level solutions, and if you want to go further into details and into the questions, obviously, you can book a demo directly on our website, or you may alternatively contact us or our sales representatives to book a demo. Okay, so I will open the Q&A session. I've been seeing that there is already one question. I guess it's for you, Denis. If you could show us how to generate an invoice document.
An invoice, okay. So I'm going to show you basically the flow. The flow in case of you have a request for part 145. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, over there, there is a section called customer relationship that is split in 2 parts, depending if you want to sell something or buy something. More or less, it will be the same flow. At some point, there is a quote, some actions, and then some invoice. In the case of a procurement, you will define what you want to buy, and it will go up to a purchase order. In case of the sales section, you received a quote request from a customer, and then you want to answer to that and ultimately sell something, some task, some parts, and perform some invoice. So the first action you will have to do is first to answer to the quote request from your customer. So you can create a quote. You may define for which customer it is. As usual, there's a form with multiple fields that you can put some number and title or whatever. And inside this quote, you will put all the items that are requested by the customer. So currently, we are able to add into a quote a task coming from a maintenance program. In the near future, just because it's in development, you will be able to add some parts. You will be able to sell some parts, some task, whatever, anything directly from there. So basically, in one click, you select the item that you want to put into your quote, and it will be added over there. And then it's a matter of quantity, price, and there will be a sum. It's standard stuff for a quote, whatever it is. So I'm just picking nothing really relevant, but just to show you basically how it works. And at some point, everything will be summed, and you will be able to generate a PDF document with the list of everything that is included, and you can share that with your customer and have it signed, and standard process, I would say. What is interesting also here is that when you add a task into this quote, here it's not visible because the maintenance program is not fed with accomplishment needs. But I said earlier that associated to a task, we may put a given number of men that are needed, qualifications, hours, parts, tools, whatever. So plenty of stuff that comes along with the task. And if they are filled in the maintenance program, they will appear immediately here as multiple lines with all the details. And you will be able to put the price you want on each of them and have a completely detailed quote. Once your quote is fine for you, you may print it from here. You click and you will create. You will be able to print it. And if your customer says it's okay to do the job, you will be able in one click to transform this quote into an order. So here you have some information to fill, like on which aircraft it is, a description of the parts that are associated to it, the serial numbers that you want to remove or add or whatever, or maybe you will fill them later on if you want to wait the engineer to fill it later on. But here globally you have a form, and what you will get once everything is filled properly here, it will create for you automatically an aircraft that will be added to your fleet. So it's not really an aircraft that you manage on a daily basis, but it will appear there in this screen, and you will have the exact same functionality as if it was a managed aircraft, meaning that you will have the aircraft, you will have a component tree with the minimum number of items, components that are needed for the tasks that are requested. The system will create for you a work order like here, containing all the tasks that were requested through your order. It also means that immediately, since it's transformed into an order, it will become visible to your director of maintenance over there through a new line with some tasks to be performed. The director of maintenance will be able to dispatch them to the engineers like if it was a managed aircraft. There's no change at all for him. For the engineers, job as usual, they go to their page, they say, I'm working on it, I request parts from the store, etc., etc. I electronically sign the paper, and we go up to the end where everything is performed or partially performed. We could also generate a work report with only half the task performed, but it's not the main scenario, it's a side scenario, I would say. So everything is performed, and then the director of maintenance is able to select all the tasks that were done, generate a work order, generate the invoice, generate the CRS directly from here, and then you can print everything, send everything to your customer, and claim for the money. And you will see also in the customer relationship part, in the invoices tab, you will see all the open invoices for which you didn't receive the money. Okay, I guess that's answering the question. Anything else, Arnold? Other questions in the chat?
Yes, Denis, sorry. There was one question related to the invoice and codes that you just showed. Is the capability to personalize with your company logo? Huh? And I know.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I can show you that over there. So, yeah. That's something global to the application. So there is some parameters section. So some parameters for the user itself, some parameters for the product account, so for your own company. And there is the ability to create one or multiple banners, headers for your documents. And each time we generate a document, the system will basically ask you the header you want, or there is one predefined depending on the scenario, but it's more or less the same. And each time you may create as many headers as you want, and an header would be basically an image that you can upload easily in one click. I just select a picture on my aircraft, it's uploaded. I show it, I can see it here afterwards. And I can create as many headers as I want.
Great.
So it's completely customizable.
Yeah,
you can customize it on your own. Nothing to request us for that. You can do it, and it's part of the product.
What we wanted to do is really giving you a lot of autonomy of personalization capability. It's now 1 hour into the webinar. I see a couple of questions, so maybe we can take one or two. We have one question, Denis. You can show that, and I will answer for the second part. Can you show the archive, unarchive feature? Because the question is, what do I do with my aircraft when it's not under my management or my maintenance?
Okay, so once an aircraft is not managed anymore, you do not want to see it over there in your fleet screen every day, because especially if you are part 145 through time, you will manage maybe hundreds of aircraft, but grossly, you will see you might manage daily only 10 of them. I don't know, just some figures. So it could be useful to remove them from this view. Plus, it will allow you not to pay every month for aircraft that you manage only during one. So to do that, it's straightforward as one click. So let's consider that this FDMO 1 aircraft is not managed by me. It was just done for the sake of a few tasks. So here I have an action which is archive airframe. So here it's bad ladder. It will be replaced by archive aircraft. So I can archive it in one click. So do I want to archive it? Yes. From this time, the aircraft is not anymore in the fleet screen. It's still somewhere in the database, and for sure we'll keep all the data. It's just not shown there because we don't care about it on a daily purpose. And you can find it again in the archive section. And here I can find my demo aircraft. If I want, I can keep this aircraft there for years, and it will be fine. If at any time, any point, I want to retrieve it and do some job on it, I just need to click once on this button. Do I want to unarchive? Yes. So it's just one click to archive and a confirmation, one click to unarchive and a confirmation. And I can see back my aircraft, and my aircraft is again as part of the fleet I'm looking at. Yeah, so great. As simple as a click to archive, as simple as a click to unarchive. Yeah, anytime on your own.
Yeah, one additional comment related to this archive unarchive feature. It has a special pricing model also. every action you do, the archive action and the unarchive action, do cost 1 unit. But in between those two actions, okay, you do not pay anything on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis. Okay, so should I do not need this aircraft for a certain period, I will pay 1 unit 10 euros for archiving, and 15, 16, 2 years, months later, I will need to unarchive this aircraft. I will pay another unit and retrieve it in my database. One last question, because we are far beyond schedule. One question, Denis, I guess you can answer that. Can you detail a little bit more about the flight hours tracking and the different counters that we do have?
Okay. So the different counters first. You may define as many counters as you want. It's completely customizable. So for sure, by default, you have flight hours, TTAF or whatever, so different namings, but it's the number of flight hours. You have the cycles or landing, depending on your wording. So those two counters are always there. There is one that everybody is using. It's the calendar one, the age basically of the part. But you are able to create as many other counters as you want over there. So a type of counter, we do support 3 different types of counters. The first one is calendar. It's the difference of time between now and a predefined date. Could be manufacturing date, last installation date, whatever. This list could be enriched through time. We do have some counters that are time counters, where basically we stack some time, time of usage, like flight hours, like the usage of a specific device that you might potentially use only few seconds or minutes during a flight. And we have counters where we sum some values, like the cycles or the counters N1 and N2, for instance, for an engine. So you may create your own with your own names, and those counters will be associated to the models. So for instance, to an engine, I should see that for this kind of engine, I'm tracking flight hours, landing, plus different kind of counters. So in this case, it's N1 N2, but I could add all the others from my list. I'm not sure here it will not be relevant, but I can create the one I want. So those counters would be defined as soon as I have a component, in this case, an engine of this part number, this type. Then once I use my aircraft, I may define some flight logs over there. And when I'm creating a flight log, so I will have a list of flight logs here, but when I define one, I will basically say that I started a flight from a given time to another time. Okay, so maybe 2 hours, some information. There's also the ability to define multiple flights at once, but here I'm showing only the basic scenario. And for this flight log entry, more exactly, I may define for each counter that is present on the aircraft, the delta that must be applied. And in the case all the parts do not have the same increment, I may also go into details and say that my engine was increased by 1.2, but another part only by 0.8. Okay, it has no meaning here, just for the purpose of the demo. So I could define all the increments I want. And once I click on save, the counter for this part especially will be increased by 1.2, and for this part will be increased by 0.8. So I have the complete flexibility to define all my counters, all my increments. And when I say that I did one landing, by default, the system will help me to say that it's one landing on all those parts, all those components, and I do not need to fill them one by one. But if I wanted to make it different, I could here it would not make sense, but I could put some different value for a given component. Also, what is interesting, it seems obvious to me, but when you define a flight log, you can also define some defects on the flight. So you put a title, you can define on which part you got an issue, and you can fill some form about what is going wrong, the attack code, etc., etc. Okay.
Thank you, Denis.
Anything else? I don't know if we still have time for questions.
I guess we are 10 minutes behind schedule, so I guess we are going to stop it from here. But obviously, as I mentioned prior, you can connect with us anytime here through the website or the email address, or directly through your sales representatives. I hope you enjoyed this session. We do have a lot of other things to show. 1 hour is never enough, but I hope you could have and enjoyed a first flavor of R22. And along with Denis, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And hopefully let's connect soon. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.